Did you know that there's a festival in Japan where thousands of nearly naked men shove each other in freezing temperatures, vying for an amulet as if their lives depended on it? Or that, in some exclusive gastronomic experiences, you can pay thousands of dollars to eat sushi directly off a person's naked body? This is neither fiction nor exaggeration. It's a real part of a culture that combines ancestral honor with habits that defy any Western logic. Japan is much more than the land of anime, temples, and advanced technology. It's a territory where the future and the past walk side by side. A place where robots with artificial intelligence share space with priests reciting ancient mantras, where earthquake-proof skyscrapers coexist with wooden houses that sheltered samurai centuries ago. It's a country where masculinity is celebrated in forms as varied as they are contradictory, from the restrained silence of the executive who works 14 hours a day to the roar of the sumo wrestler who invokes spiritual forces before combat. Now imagine walking through the streets of Tokyo, one of the busiest and most futuristic cities on the planet, while realizing that, behind the technological facade, there is a society guided by invisible codes. Codes that involve absolute respect, almost military discipline, and constant pressure not to make mistakes. For many, being a man in Japan is a daily test of self-control and resilience, which is reflected both in the work culture and in relationships, or the lack thereof. That's what you'll see from now on in Unfiltered World. Want to be part of a journey full of discoveries, fun, and content that will surprise you? Subscribe to our channel by clicking here and don't miss any more videos. You will discover that, despite its reputation as a safe and organized country, Japan also harbors a series of controversial and even bizarre realities. From the famous love hotels, which offer themed rooms for intimate encounters, to cafes where you pay to receive a hug, or even services where it is possible to rent a girlfriend for a few hours. And it doesn't stop there. There are men who choose to live completely isolated from the world, locked away in their rooms for years, known as hikikomori. A phenomenon that challenges traditional notions of masculinity, affection, and belonging. But Japan is also the land of honor. The ancient samurai code, known as Bushido, still influences how many Japanese people live, work, and relate to each other. This spirit is present in martial arts, traditional architecture, the silent temples of Kyoto, and the unspoken rules that shape daily life. Honor, for many here, is worth more than any material reward. It is this contrast between what is visible and what is felt, between what is permitted and what is hidden, that makes Japan one of the most fascinating and extreme places in the modern world. If you are the type of person who seeks more than beautiful landscapes and cliché tourist experiences and wants to delve into the hidden layers of a complex culture, this content is for you. Here you will explore the behind the scenes of a society where everything seems to be under control, but where internal tensions speak louder than words. A country where men face challenges that go far beyond appearances. Challenges that involve honor, loneliness, desire, repression, and, above all, the constant attempt to balance what they are with what they are expected to be. Get ready to experience Japan without filters, the Japan of extremes, the Japan of courage and contradiction. Because, more than a tourist destination, Japan is a silent battlefield where tradition and modernity clash daily and where true masculine strength is uniquely tested. The question is, are you ready to face this journey? Engineering and the pursuit of perfection. If there is a place on the planet where the future is not just a promise but a concrete reality, that place is Japan. In no other country is engineering treated with such seriousness, precision, and national pride. Here, machines not only work, they impress, defy limits, and often seem to have come straight out of science fiction movies. The greatest example of this is on the rails. The Shinkansen, known worldwide as the bullet train, is a masterpiece of modern engineering. Launched in the 1960s, it revolutionized transportation by connecting the country's major cities at speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. And most impressively, it does all this with absurd punctuality, often measured in seconds. It is so precise that delays of 2 minutes can generate public apologies from the company, something unthinkable in other parts of the world. But Japan didn't stop there. The country developed the maglev, a train that levitates above the tracks using magnetic levitation technology. No wheels, no friction, no noise. It glides as if floating and has already reached speeds of over 600 kilometers per hour in tests. The goal is clear: to create the fastest land transportation in history. When the maglev is fully operational, it will be possible to travel from Tokyo to Nagoya in about 40 minutes, a distance of over 280 kilometers. Behind these incredible machines is a national obsession with efficiency, safety, and innovation. Each train is monitored by systems that detect even the slightest vibration. The tracks are inspected daily, manually, and by artificial intelligence. And unlike what is seen in many countries, here public transport is a source of pride, not frustration. The impact of this engineering goes beyond speed. The Japanese railway system also represents a model of respect for the time of others, for the community, and for urban planning. For the male audience, which often values performance, robustness, and results, it is impossible not to be impressed by what Japan has built. Each departing train is almost like a Swiss watch in motion, fast, precise, and elegant. Traveling by train in Japan is not just a means of transportation. It is an experience that shows how technology, respect, and excellence can coexist. It is the kind of progress that inspires and, at the same time, makes us question why the rest of the world is still so far behind. The legacy of the samurai and Bushido. In a time when values seem increasingly negotiable, there is something in Japan that remains as firm as a blade forged in fire: the legacy of the samurai. Although the times of warriors armed with swords are long gone, the spirit that guided them remains alive, present in various aspects of modern Japanese society, especially in the way men live, work, and relate to duty. The samurai code of conduct was called Bushido, which literally means the way of the warrior. More than a set of combat rules, Bushido was a philosophy of life. It demanded absolute loyalty, unwavering courage, self-control, humility, and above all, honor. For a samurai, dying with dignity was better than living in dishonor. This mentality shaped centuries of Japanese history and still strongly influences the present. Today, you find reflections of Bushido everywhere. In the corporate environment, for example, many workers, especially men, follow almost military routines. They arrive early, leave late, avoid mistakes, and are always ready to sacrifice themselves for the good of the company. The notion that the group comes before the self is a direct inheritance from the times of the samurai clans. In martial arts, this philosophy remains clear and accessible to anyone who wishes to learn. Disciplines such as kendo, aikido, karate, and judo are not merely physical combat, but also mental and moral training. Respect for the master, silence between movements, reverence for the opponent. All of this stems from the samurai ethos. Learning to master the body is only the beginning. The true challenge is mastering oneself. Visiting cities like Kyoto, it's possible to find temples, museums, and preserved houses where these warriors lived. In many of these places, you not only see relics, but you feel the energy of a time when a man's word was worth more than any contract. This connection to the past brings a powerful reflection. In a constantly changing world, do values like honor, respect, and courage still have a place? For many Japanese, and for men of other cultures who are drawn to this ideal, the answer is yes. The samurai may have stopped carrying a sword, but he remains present in the way Japanese people approach work, responsibility, loyalty, and silence. In the end, the samurai's true blade was not steel, it was character. The hidden world of geishas. When talking about Japan, few images are as iconic as that of a geisha, with her impeccable kimono, her white painted face, and silent steps that seem to float. However, what many believe they know about them is far from reality. Geishas are not figures of the past, nor are they linked to the idea of a companion, as the Western imagination often assumes. In fact, they represent one of the most refined expressions of traditional Japanese culture and a powerful symbol of elegance, discipline, and art. The word geisha literally means person of art. They are highly trained artists in music, dance, singing, poetry, and etiquette. Their role is to entertain in a sophisticated way, conducting intelligent conversations and creating an atmosphere of beauty and respect. More than just pleasing, the geisha has the mission of preserving and transmitting a culture that spans centuries. Before becoming geishas, apprentices undergo a long period of training and are called maikos. This phase can last up to 5 years, during which they learn everything from the precise movements of traditional dances to the correct way to serve tea, play instruments such as the shamisen, stringed instrument, and behave in front of important guests. Every gesture, every word, and even the way they walk are carefully trained. Maikos and geishas live in okiyas, which are communal houses, where they are educated under the supervision of a more experienced geisha. The routine is rigorous, with demanding schedules and a deep respect for hierarchies. Everything is based on discipline, tradition, and artistic mastery. One of the best places to observe this tradition up close is the Gion district in Kyoto. There, it is still possible to see Maikos walking along the cobblestone streets at dusk, towards the tea houses where they will perform. These moments, even brief ones, are like scenes that have escaped time. At festivals like the Miyako Odori, they perform publicly with dazzling dances and costumes, attracting spectators from all over the world. For the man who values elegance, respect for tradition, and art as a form of expression, understanding the universe of geishas is to immerse oneself in a world where strength and delicacy coexist. Contrary to what many think, these women represent not submission, but absolute mastery over themselves and over the arts they practice. In an increasingly fast-paced world, their existence is a powerful reminder that true sophistication lies in the details and the silent dedication behind each gesture. Gastronomy as a challenge in art. In Japan, eating goes far beyond satisfying hunger. Gastronomy is a ritual, an art, and, in certain cases, a challenge. For the man who seeks intense, exclusive, and even risky experiences, Japan offers dishes that test not only the palate, but also courage. One of the greatest symbols of this gastronomic audacity is the legendary fugu, or pufferfish. Although it seems harmless, this fish contains a toxin called tetrodotoxin, which is about 100 times more lethal than cyanide. A poorly cut portion can cause paralysis and lead to death by asphyxiation. There is no antidote. Still, or perhaps precisely because of this, fugu is considered a delicacy. Eating fugu is almost like a rite of passage, a silent way of showing confidence and bravery. The chefs who prepare it must undergo years of training and obtain rigorous licenses. The simple act of savoring a thin, translucent slice of this fish, often served raw as sashimi, carries a powerful symbolic weight, the mastery of risk with elegance. But fugu is not the only dish that inspires respect. Kobe beef, one of the most sought-after meats in the world, also has its place of honor on the Japanese table. Sourced from Wagyu cows, raised under controlled conditions with special feed and even relaxing massages, this meat is famous for its tenderness and perfect marbling. The flavor is so delicate that it practically melts in your mouth. Eating a cut of Kobe beef in its place of origin is like tasting a culinary jewel, but be prepared to spend. A single steak can cost over $500. For those who prefer something more affordable, but still full of personality, ramen is an excellent choice. This noodle soup, although simple at first glance, is treated as art by many chefs. There are dozens of variations with broths that take hours to prepare, each with a regional touch and family secrets. There are spicy ramens that challenge the palate, and others that are milder and more aromatic, ideal for cold nights. These dishes are not just meals, they tell stories, revealing the care, technique, and soul of a culture that values every detail. And for the man who seeks more than a full plate, he seeks meaning. Japanese gastronomy is a true sensory experience, because here even food demands respect, attention, and sometimes a little courage. The religion of work and its consequences. If there is a place in the world where work is almost a religion, that place is Japan. For many Japanese, especially men, personal identity is deeply linked to their profession. The badge is not just a symbol of employment, it is a seal of honor, responsibility, and belonging. But this level of commitment, which at first glance may seem admirable, hides an emotional and social weight that few foreigners can imagine. Japanese corporate culture is based on values inherited from the ancient samurai code, such as loyalty, discipline, and obedience. Companies function like true families, and employees are expected to remain in them for decades, sometimes for a lifetime. Job changes are viewed with suspicion, and delays, failures, or refusals to perform extra tasks can be interpreted as signs of disrespect. The workday is usually long and intense. Many workers arrive early, leave late, and avoid taking vacations so as not to overburden their colleagues. There is even a specific term in Japan for death from overwork, karoshi. It is a real phenomenon that includes cases of heart attack, stroke, and suicide caused by physical and mental exhaustion. On the other hand, this same culture has created an environment where efficiency, punctuality, and mutual respect have reached levels rarely seen in the West. Meetings are organized, decisions are made collectively, and each employee understands that their role, however small it may seem, is essential to the functioning of the machine. In many companies, employees start the day by cleaning the office together as a way to reinforce unity and humility. Despite the rigidity, the scenario is changing. The new generations of Japanese, especially young men, have shown resistance to the traditional model. Many reject the ideal of the, quote, provider man, seeking a balance between personal life and career. As a result, curious phenomena arise, such as the increase in the number of freelancers, entrepreneurs, and even young people who completely abandon the job market, the aforementioned hikikomori, who live in seclusion for months or years. Working in Japan is a constant exercise in self-control, patience, and attention to detail. For the man who values discipline and commitment, it is an environment that may seem admirable, but it is also a delicate territory where pressure is constant and silence often hides suffering. In this rigorous corporate world, honor is still worth more than any bonus, but like any code of honor, it exacts its price. When you think of Japan, images of friendly robots, advanced technology, ultra-fast trains, and state-of-the-art cell phones immediately come to mind. But there is a lesser-known and much darker side to this technological powerhouse. Japan, despite its peaceful and reserved image, also invests heavily in security, defense, and military development. And all of this happens discreetly, but in a highly strategic way. By imposition of its post-war constitution, Japan technically does not have a traditional army. Instead, it maintains the so-called self-defense forces, a highly trained and equipped military group with one of the most modern naval fleets in the world. The country develops military drones, fifth-generation fighter jets, anti-missile systems, and high-tech armored vehicles, in addition to being at the forefront of robotics applied to security and surveillance. Many of the industrial robots you see in factories also have versions adapted for tactical environments, used in simulations and rescues. While Japan invests in defense technology subtly, the basis of its combat culture remains martial arts. More than just sports, these practices are true schools of philosophy. Kendo, fencing with a bamboo sword, karate, and judo are ways to cultivate not only physical strength, but also emotional mastery. Each strike is accompanied by silence, focus, and respect. Learning to fight here is learning not to lose control, and for the Japanese, that is more important than winning. These traditions also teach the importance of defeat. Unlike Western thinking, which often sees losing as failure, in Japan, error is an essential part of the growth process. This mentality shapes not only warriors on the tatami, but also executives, engineers, and even artists. But not everything is limited to dojos or military laboratories. There is also the underground Japan, made up of neon-lit alleys, urban subcultures, hackers, secret groups, and unspoken social codes. These are the gray areas of a society that on the outside seems calm and impeccable, but on the inside harbors a whirlwind of implicit rules, invisible pressures, and rigid structures. The Japan they don't tell you about is one where tradition and vigilance go hand in hand, where the samurai sword has been replaced by chips, sensors, and silent honor. And for the man who seeks to understand what lies behind appearances, this is the most fascinating and most dangerous territory of all. Travel tips: how to explore Japan without breaking your banks. Don't be fooled. Japan has a reputation for being an expensive destination, but with planning and some smart strategies, it's entirely possible to explore the country without compromising your finances. And best of all, you can still have incredible experiences without giving up the comfort, culture, and authenticity that only Japan offers. The first essential tip is to make the most of the Japan Rail Pass. It's exclusive to tourists and allows unlimited travel on junior trains, including the famous Shinkansen, for periods of 7, 14, or 21 days. The pass may seem expensive at first glance, about $330 for a week, but if you plan to visit several cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Hiroshima, or Sapporo, it pays for itself quickly. The savings on individual train tickets are enormous, and they also offer speed, comfort, and punctuality that few transportation systems in the world can match. When choosing accommodation, there are options for all budgets. Large cities offer everything from more affordable chain hotels to traditional ryokans, Japanese inns with tatami mats, and hot spring baths. For those who really want to save money, there are also modern and clean hostels, as well as the curious capsule hotels, where you sleep in small individual cabins, ideal for those who want practicality, hygiene, and a fair price. Eating doesn't have to be a problem either. Although there are luxurious restaurants that charge hundreds of dollars per meal, it's easy to find cheap and delicious options. Konbinis, convenience stores like 7-Eleven and Lawson, offer ready-made meals at very low prices and surprisingly good. Ramen, udon, and Japanese curry restaurants are usually affordable and extremely tasty. Eating well in Japan on a budget is entirely possible. Another valuable tip is to avoid taxis and prioritize public transportation. The subway system in major cities is efficient, safe, and easy to use, even for those who don't speak Japanese. Furthermore, many temples, parks, and museums have free or very low admission fees, especially outside the major urban centers. And an important detail, with the devaluation of the yen in recent years, Japan is more accessible than ever for foreign tourists. This means your money can go much further, especially compared to European destinations. In short, visiting Japan on a budget is more than feasible. It's an opportunity to experience one of the most incredible countries in the world without having to sell a kidney. With organization, curiosity, and a bit of adventurous spirit, you can explore every corner of the archipelago and still come back with good stories and some change in your pocket. Conclusion: a journey beyond the surface. After everything you've seen, it's difficult to look at Japan with the same eyes. This is not just a country of cutting-edge technology, silent temples, and refined cuisine. It is a complex territory where opposing forces coexist all the time and where the concept of masculinity is tested at deep, symbolic, and even painful levels. Nowhere else in the world is a man demanded of in so many different ways. In Japan, he is expected to be strong like a samurai, focused like an engineer, sensitive like a poet, and discreet like a monk. This combination of roles, often conflicting, shapes a fascinating society, but one that also carries a heavy burden of expectations and silence. The work culture, for example, is admirable in its organization, but also cruel in its rigidity. Honor is still worth more than money, but the price paid for it is often physical and mental health. Eating can be a refined pleasure or a lethal risk, as in the case of fugu. Sexuality is publicly repressed, but it is expressed in neon-lit alleys and unconventional practices. The delicacy of geishas contrasts with the brutality of festivals where semi-naked men push each other in the mud to please the gods. And in the midst of all this is the Japanese man, or rather the various Japanese men, the salaryman who lives for the company, the hikikomori who hides from the world, the kendo fighter who follows bushido, the otaku who finds in anime a way to exist, the family man who never says I love you but never lets anything be lacking, the young man who doesn't want to get married but hires company so he doesn't have to eat alone. They are all part of this mosaic called Japan, and all of them in some way reflect aspects that exist or have existed in men from anywhere in the world. Because, ultimately, what Japan shows us is that masculinity is not a ready-made formula, but a cultural, historical, and emotional construct in constant transformation. That's exactly why visiting Japan goes far beyond seeing beautiful landscapes or tasting exotic foods. It's an experience that confronts you, that forces you to step out of your comfort zone, that makes you rethink your own values, your limits, and even your identity as a man. Perhaps you will discover that honor is not only in great deeds, but also in small, silent gestures. That courage is not only about facing enemies, but also about confronting your own inner fears. That strength is not measured only in the body, but in the ability to adapt, to be kind, to respect traditions, even when they seem strange. Japan is an external journey, yes, but it is also an internal journey for those who are willing to look closely. A destination that shows you the power of silence, discipline, and the beauty contained in the details, where even mistakes are part of the journey and where saying nothing can mean everything. If you are looking for more than fun, more than consumption, more than selfies with cherry blossoms, and want to immerse yourself in a world where everything has meaning, then Japan awaits you. It is not a place for those who want easy answers. This is a place for those who like difficult questions. So, after all this, would you have the courage to try a fish that could kill you? Would you participate in a festival with thousands of men seeking luck and purification? Would you isolate yourself for years in a room if the pressure became unbearable? Or would you face it all head-on like a modern samurai? If any of these questions resonated with you, then the content has served its purpose. Japan is not for everyone. Understanding Japan isn't either. But for those who take on the challenge, the reward is a new way of seeing the world, and perhaps of seeing themselves. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're part of a minority that wants to see beyond the surface. Now we want to know from you, which part of Japan surprised you the most? Which reality would challenge you the most as a man? Leave your comment, share with those who also like to explore in depth, and subscribe to the channel to receive more content that gets straight to the point. Uncensored, unfiltered, with depth. We hope this journey through the mysteries of fascinating Japan has been as exciting for you as it has been for us. With that in mind, and considering the effort it takes to make these videos, we'd love for you to leave a like, and your comment is the best way to help us continue bringing you the best content every week. If you enjoyed this video and aren't already subscribed, don't waste any time and do it now by activating the bell so you don't miss the fascinating videos we produce every week. Videos like this one that you can watch now to discover one of the most fascinating places on the planet. Don't miss this opportunity and discover the wonders that these and many other places have to offer.